The chandeliers inside the River Cafe glittered like tiny frozen stars, scattering gold across the polished wine glasses and the Manhattan skyline glowing beyond the wide windows. Chase Donovan sat at a private table near the railing, adjusting the cuff of his navy jacket, savoring the attention drifting toward him. Tonight was supposed to be his night, the night he proved to the investors that he belonged among Manhattan's power players. Beside him, Brielle Maddox laid a hand on his arm, her smile perfectly rehearsed, her diamond bracelet catching the soft light like it had been waiting for its moment. "You're doing great," she whispered, brushing a lock of hair behind her ear. Her voice carried the confidence of someone who'd climbed her way into rooms like this more than once. Chase leaned back in his chair, letting his gaze sweep across the restaurant. He imagined tomorrow's headlines. Chase Donovan steps into Manhattan's elite circle. It soothed him. It made him forget how thin the ice under his career had become. A server placed a fresh bottle of white wine on the table, the label facing outward for Chase to see. He nodded with satisfaction. Everything tonight had been chosen to impress. The wine, the location, even Brielle's silk dress. He raised his glass, preparing to toast the beginning of his comeback. Then he saw her. Lauren Avery stepped through the entrance, her movements slow, steady, and heartbreakingly familiar. She wasn't dressed for spectacle. She didn't need to be. Her soft navy dress framed her shoulders gently, her hair was loose, and her hand rested on the small but unmistakable swell of her belly. His child. The child he'd sworn she couldn't possibly keep, the child he'd refused to acknowledge. Chase froze. The glass slipped slightly in his grip. Behind Lauren stood a man Chase recognized instantly, Ethan Calder, CEO of Calder Industries, the very investor Chase had been trying to charm all month. Ethan placed a hand at the small of Lauren's back to guide her forward, his expression calm, protective, almost possessive. No, it couldn't be. Not her. Not with him. Brielle followed Chase's stare and stiffened. "Is that Lauren?" she whispered, panic flickering through her smile. "And why is she with Calder?" Chase couldn't answer. His pulse hammered against his throat as Lauren and Ethan were escorted to a table just yards away, close enough for the entire restaurant to witness whatever storm was about to break. Lauren didn't look at Chase at first. She held her posture, quiet dignity wrapped in fragile strength. But when her eyes finally lifted, their gazes collided with the weight of everything he'd tried to bury. The room felt suddenly too bright, too silent, too revealing. And then, Ethan did something that made Chase's stomach drop. He reached for Lauren's chair, pulled it out gently, and leaned close enough that anyone watching could misunderstand the gesture entirely. Chase's fingertips turned numb as a single horrifying thought crashed into him. What if Lauren wasn't here by accident at all? Snow drifted past the windows of their small Queens apartment, soft and soundless, as if the world were trying to cushion a blow Lauren never saw coming. She'd set the table for two. Simple pasta, warm bread. The kind of dinner she knew Chase liked when he was stressed. But Chase paced the living room instead, still wearing his tailored coat, still carrying the icy distance he'd brought home for weeks. "Sit down," Lauren whispered, folding her hands to hide the tremble. "We need to talk." He didn't sit. He didn't even look at the food. "I'm done pretending," he said, voice clipped. "This marriage isn't working." The words hit her like a sudden shove. "Chase, we can work through this. You've been under pressure. Just talk to me." But Chase finally stopped pacing and met her eyes, cold, detached, calculating. "I'm filing for divorce. Tomorrow." Her breath caught. "Tomorrow? Without even trying counseling? Without—" "Lauren!" he cut in sharply. "Don't make this dramatic. I've already made my decision." When she didn't speak, he exhaled impatiently. "Besides, you can't keep the baby." The room seemed to tilt. "The baby?" Her hand instinctively covered her stomach. "I found out 2 days ago. I was going to tell you tonight." "And I'm telling you now," Chase said, stepping back like her touch might burn him. "A child will destroy everything I'm building. Investors don't back unstable executives." "Unstable?" Lauren whispered. "Because I'm pregnant? Because I thought we were a family?" Chase looked past her, toward the freezing street outside. "You'll be fine. You always land on your feet." He grabbed his leather bag, ignoring her tears, ignoring the dinner, ignoring the vows he once made. When he opened the door, winter wind rushed in, carrying snow and silence. "Where will you go?" she asked, voice breaking. "Somewhere better," he said. "Somewhere I can actually win." And then he left. No backward glance, no apology, just the echo of boots on the stairwell. Lauren sank to the floor, arms wrapped around her stomach, the pasta cooling untouched beside her. Outside, she heard a car door slam. A woman's laugh, Brielle's, floated up through the icy air. The engine of Chase's car growled to life, and as the headlights disappeared into the snow, Lauren realized she had no idea what kind of danger Chase had already dragged her into. The days after Chase left felt like Lauren was walking through a fog that refused to lift. At first, she tried to hold on to something, anything, that still resembled her old life. But reality didn't break gently. It came down hard, piece by piece. The landlord knocked first. "Mrs. Donovan, your husband's late on rent again," he said, avoiding her eyes. "3 months? I'm sorry, but I can't extend it anymore." 3 months. Chase had told her he paid everything. She promised she would fix it. But the landlord shook his head. "I need him to confirm. The lease is under his name." Chase never returned her calls. Within a week, she was packing her clothes into 2 suitcases, her fingers numb as she folded sweaters, the apartment echoing with a hollow quiet. She found a temporary room with a friend from work in Queens, but it lasted only 10 days, until the rumors started. "Did you hear?" Someone whispered at the office. "Her husband left because she was unstable. I heard she made up the pregnancy to trap him." "Chase is the one everyone respects," another said. "Why would he lie?" Lauren walked past them, her face drained of color. They didn't lower their voices. They didn't care. Her supervisor called her in. "Lauren, with everything going on, maybe take some time off. We'll review your position once things settle." But things didn't settle. Not when a letter arrived from the bank informing her that Chase had taken out a business loan using her signature, one she didn't remember signing. Her name was now tied to debt she never saw, debt she didn't even know existed. Her hands shook as she stared at the numbers. She couldn't breathe. She hadn't eaten properly in days, surviving on yogurt, crackers, and cheap cereal. Stress clawed at her from every angle, and the more she tried to stand, the more everything seemed to tilt against her. One night, in her friend's small apartment, Lauren curled on the edge of the couch, listening to the distant rumble of the city. Her stomach tightened. Not from hunger this time, but fear. The baby kicked lightly, a reminder she wasn't alone. She placed her hand on her belly, whispering, "I'm trying. I swear I'm trying." But then the phone buzzed. A restricted number. A voice she recognized all too well. "Lauren," Chase said calmly, "we need to talk about the debt, and you need to keep your mouth shut." It was the first time she realized Chase hadn't simply abandoned her, he'd set her up. It was raining hard the night Lauren's life collided with Ethan Calder's for the first time. Not in a boardroom, not at a charity gala, not even in a place where people like him and people like her normally crossed paths. It happened in the marble lobby of the Plaza Hotel, where she had gone to drop off documents for the non-profit she no longer technically worked for. She hoped the trip would remind her she still had some purpose. Instead, her body was betraying her again, head spinning, vision fading at the edges, knees buckling. She tried to steady herself by gripping the edge of a column, but a wave of dizziness swept over her. Someone in a tailored coat brushed past, grumbling about the weather. Another stepped around her, as if she were invisible. Then she felt a hand on her elbow, Firm, steady, warm. "Ma'am," a man's voice said, low and controlled, "you're about to faint. Sit down." She blinked up and saw a man she recognized from newspapers and business journals, Ethan Calder, the famously private CEO, whose photograph rarely appeared anywhere except financial reports. His gray eyes were sharper than they seemed on paper, focused entirely on her, not out of pity, but concern edged with urgency. "I'm fine," Lauren whispered, though her voice trembled. "Just need a minute." "You need more than a minute." Without waiting for permission, he motioned to a hotel staff member. "Call the on-site medic, now." Lauren tried to protest, but Ethan guided her to a velvet bench, his hand steadying her back. She felt humiliated, small, like a burden he shouldn't have to deal with. Her damp hair stuck to her face. Her coat was cheap compared to the gowns swishing past them. She didn't belong in this hotel, much less in the orbit of a man like him. When the medic arrived and checked her pressure, he frowned. "You need rest and proper nutrition. Are you under stress?" Lauren almost laughed. Under stress? She lived inside it now. Ethan stood nearby, arms crossed, assessing her like she was a problem he didn't yet know how to solve. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lauren," she said softly. "Do you have someone to help you get home, Lauren?" She hesitated. That hesitation was enough. Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You shouldn't be alone in your condition." Her breath caught. "My condition?" His eyes dropped briefly to her stomach, still not showing much, but visible enough to a man with sharp instincts. Before she could respond, the medic spoke again. "She shouldn't walk far." Ethan exhaled slowly. "I'll get you a car," he said. "You're going home safely tonight. That's not negotiable." Lauren had no idea this stranger would soon become the one person Chase feared most. While Lauren struggled to rebuild her life, Brielle Maddox was busy tightening her influence over Chase Donovan like a silk ribbon pulled slowly around his throat. She had slipped into his world with expertly measured steps, never too pushy, never too obvious, until he relied on her more than he ever admitted. At Chase's new downtown office, she sat across from him at the conference table, tapping her manicured nails on a glossy stack of financial briefs. "You need bolder moves, Chase," she said smoothly. "Investors want confidence, not timidity. If you want to land the Calder deal, show them you're already winning." Chase rubbed his temples. "We're stretched thin already. I need time." "You don't have time." Brielle leaned forward, her perfume drifting like a quiet ultimatum. "The market's shifting. You either take risks or you get swallowed." She slid a folder toward him, one filled with proposals she had drafted without him asking. High-risk ventures, questionable partnerships, numbers that glittered with promise but hid jagged edges beneath. Chase glanced at the documents, jaw tight. "You expect me to gamble everything?" he muttered. "No," she said with a soft smile. "I expect you to rise, the way you deserve." She knew exactly what strings to pull. Chase's pride, his fear of insignificance, his desperation to prove he belonged among Manhattan's elite. She wrapped each insecurity with flattery, pressing gently until he mistook manipulation for motivation. Later that evening, as they walked out onto the chilly Manhattan sidewalk, Brielle looped her arm through his. "By the way," she added casually, "I've been hearing things about Lauren." Chase stiffened. "What things?" "That she's telling people you left her with debt. That she's unstable." Brielle lowered her voice conspiratorially, watching his reaction. "If investors catch wind of that, they'll question your judgment." Chase clenched his jaw. "She wouldn't dare." "I'm just saying," Brielle continued, her expression soft but her tone sharp. "You need to control the narrative before she ruins everything." Her words curled into Chase's mind like smoke. He hated how easily they made sense, how quickly he believed her, how deeply her poison sank. As they neared his car, Brielle's heels clicking confidently against the pavement, she stopped him with a hand on his chest. If you want the life you're chasing, Chase, you can't let Lauren drag you back down. He swallowed hard, not noticing the glint of victory in her eyes. And Brielle smiled to herself, knowing she had just pushed Chase toward a decision that would change all their lives forever. Lauren's new job wasn't glamorous. It wasn't even stable, but it was something she could hold on to. After weeks of searching, a community nonprofit in Brooklyn finally agreed to take her in as a part-time coordinator. Her paycheck was small, the commute long, but she was grateful for a place where she could breathe without someone whispering about her past. Each morning, she boarded the Q train with a paper bag holding a plain bagel and a cheap cup of coffee. She used to drink lattes from Chelsea cafes. Now she couldn't justify anything more than the basics. Her old iPhone, the one Chase said made her look unprofessional, flickered every few hours, threatening to die completely. She kept it anyway. It was the only thing she had left that felt like her. At the office, she worked quietly, organizing workshops, answering calls, sending emails on an old MacBook that overheated if she typed too fast. Her coworkers were polite but distant, unsure how to approach the new woman who carried both exhaustion and kindness in her posture. They didn't know about her past. They didn't know about Chase. They didn't know she was pregnant. She intended to keep it that way, but the pregnancy didn't care about her plans. Some days she felt fine. Other days, a wave of nausea hit her without warning. She would brace herself against a bathroom counter, breathing through the dizziness until the world stopped tilting. One afternoon, while sorting donated school supplies, a coworker named Janelle noticed her pale face and trembling hands. "You okay? You look like you're about to pass out." Lauren forced a smile. "Just tired." "Maybe eat something," Janelle suggested, but she was already walking away. Lunch was a small container of crackers she kept in her drawer. She chewed slowly, hand resting over her belly. "We're okay," she whispered. "We'll make it." But despite her determination, the stress was unrelenting. Bills piled up. The bank kept calling. She calculated every dollar before spending it. Nights were the worst. Lying on a borrowed sofa, staring at the ceiling, replaying the day, and wondering if she'd ever climb out of the hole Chase pushed her into. Still, she pushed on. Until the evening, the nonprofit director called her into his office. He looked sympathetic, almost apologetic. "Lauren, we need to reduce hours. Funding's been cut. We can't keep everyone full-time." Her stomach dropped. "So I'm being let go?" "No, just part-time, for now." She nodded, but her chest tightened painfully. Another loss. Another blow. Leaving the building that night, the winter air stung her cheeks. She wrapped her coat tighter, blinking back tears. She didn't see the black Mercedes parked across the street. Inside it, Chase Donovan lowered the window just enough to watch her walk away. And for the first time, Lauren sensed she wasn't the only one fighting in the dark. 2 weeks after Lauren's hours were cut, she found herself preparing materials for a community literacy event in downtown Manhattan. The nonprofit director insisted she attend. It was a chance for the organization to secure new donors. Lauren doubted she'd be of much help, but she went anyway. Showing up was all she had left. The event was hosted in the airy lobby of the Calder Foundation, a name that made her chest tighten unexpectedly. She remembered that rainy night at the plaza, the man who had helped her, the man whose expression held a depth she didn't fully understand. She hadn't seen or spoken to him since. She didn't expect he'd remember her. Lauren stood behind a small booth arranging donated books, titles faded, edges soft from years in children's hands. As she placed a worn copy of Charlotte's Web on the table, a wave of lightheadedness washed over her. She gripped the edge of the booth, breathing slowly until the dizziness passed. "Are you all right?" The voice was unmistakable, calm, deep, steady. She looked up and froze. Ethan Calder. He wasn't wearing one of his crisp suits today. His sleeves were rolled to his forearms, his expression softer than she remembered. Yet there was something sharper in his eyes, too. Curiosity, recognition, concern. Mr. Calder, she murmured, embarrassed. I mean, thank you for what you did at the plaza. You didn't tell me you worked with this organization, he said. I do, for now. Her voice cracked slightly. She hoped he didn't notice. Ethan glanced at the books, then at her small, tired face. You look pale. Are you sure you're all right? Lauren nodded too quickly. Just need to pace myself. His eyes drifted briefly, as if recalling the subtle swell under her coat that night. Lauren, he said slowly, are you— Before he could finish, a cluster of reporters entered the lobby, cameras flashing. They headed straight for Ethan. The room shifted, staff hurried, donors whispered. Ethan moved instinctively into professional mode, but not before touching Lauren's arm, a grounding gesture that startled her. Wait for me after the event, he said quietly. There's something you need to know. She blinked, confused. About what? He hesitated. About Chase. Her breath caught. The crowd swallowed him up, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions, leaving Lauren frozen in place, pulse racing. Because there was only one reason a man like Ethan Calder would know anything about Chase Donovan. The event stretched longer than expected. By the time the last donor left, the lobby had grown quiet, the warm lights dimming to a soft glow. Lauren stood near the booth, clutching a stack of unused flyers, unsure whether she was supposed to wait. Part of her feared she had misunderstood Ethan. Another part feared she hadn't. When he finally returned, his tie was loosened, and the exhaustion on his face wasn't just from interviews. It was older, deeper, something she hadn't noticed before. Thank you for waiting, Ethan said gently. I wasn't sure if— I meant it. His tone left no room for doubt. They stepped aside to a quieter corner, near the tall windows overlooking the city. Manhattan glittered below them, indifferent to the lives unraveling inside its towers. Ethan rested his hands in his pockets, searching for the right place to begin. There's something I need to explain, he said. Something about why I stepped in that night at the plaza. Lauren shook her head. You don't owe me an explanation. Maybe not, he replied, but I owe myself one. He took a slow breath. Years ago, before my company grew, someone close to me, someone I cared about, got caught in a scandal she didn't deserve. A tabloid fabricated a story, twisted everything, and dragged her name through the dirt. She couldn't escape the pressure. She didn't survive it. Lauren's heart sank. Ethan, I'm so sorry. He looked out at the skyline, jaw tightening. Ever since, I can't stand seeing someone pushed into a corner they didn't build. When I saw you at the hotel, alone, struggling, I recognized the look. The same look she had before everything fell apart. Lauren swallowed hard. The weight of his confession pressed against her chest. Not pity, but a shared grief she didn't know they had. That's why you helped me, she whispered. It's part of it, he admitted. His eyes met hers. But there's something else you need to know. Something about Chase. Her pulse quickened. Your husband, Ethan said carefully, has been approaching my firm with proposals. Deals that don't add up. And someone anonymously warned us he's been using another person's name to move money. Lauren felt the floor tilt. What name? Ethan hesitated, expression darkening. Yours. Her breath caught painfully. No, that can't be. He wouldn't. Yes, Ethan said quietly. He already has. She pressed a hand over her mouth, tears burning as the air thinned around her. And Ethan knew this was only the beginning of the truth she had to hear. Chase Donovan had been riding a high for weeks, convinced that his bold new strategies, many pushed by Betrayal, were finally going to pay off. He bragged to colleagues about meetings he didn't actually secure, spoke confidently about investor interest that didn't exist, and strutted around as if Manhattan already had a plaque engraved with his name. But paranoia seeped through the cracks of his ego like water through an old pipe. And nothing triggered that paranoia more than the mention of Ethan Calder. One afternoon, Chase paced his office, phone pressed to his ear while Brielle scrolled on her iPad. Ethan's assistant said he's reevaluating our proposal, Chase snapped. Reevaluating? That means he knows something. Brielle didn't look up. Relax. He's busy. CEOs pull that stuff all the time. No, Chase insisted, stopping abruptly. He knows. I can feel it. Someone must have told him about the loan, or the papers, or… Chase. Brielle finally set the iPad down. You're spiraling, and it's not a good look. He ignored her, running a hand through his hair. Calder doesn't just disappear. He doesn't ghost people. I've been trying to lock down that meeting for months. So try again, she said lightly. You're resourceful. Chase shot her a glare. This isn't a game. But to Brielle, everything was a game. The higher the stakes, the better. Later that night, while they attended a small private gathering at a Park Avenue condo, a colleague from the investment world approached Chase with a drink in hand. Heard Calder's foundation is working closely with some community programs, the man said casually. One of the coordinators, sweet woman, Lauren something? Avery, I think. Chase froze. Everything inside him went still. Lauren. Calder. Together. Working together? A cold shiver crawled down his spine. Brielle saw the panic in his eyes instantly. Is everything all right? She whispered. No, Chase muttered. It's not. He stepped away from the crowd, gripping the balcony railing as the city lights blurred below him. If Lauren had gotten close to Calder, if she told him anything, or worse, if Calder cared. His pulse thundered. Brielle joined him quietly, her expression unreadable. You don't think she'd expose you, do you? She asked sweetly, as if she didn't already know the answer. Chase clenched his jaw so tightly it ached. She wouldn't dare. She's too scared, too weak. But even he didn't believe the words, because Lauren wasn't as weak as he remembered, and Ethan Calder was not a man to cross. For the first time, Chase realized he wasn't just losing control, he was losing the narrative, and someone else was rewriting it. The hospital room was small, dimly lit, and colder than Lauren expected. She hadn't planned to be there at all. She only meant to stop by the clinic for a quick checkup after another dizzy spell at work. But her blood pressure had been too high, her pulse irregular, and the doctor's expression shifted from calm to concerned within minutes. Lauren, Dr. Mitchell said gently, placing her chart on the counter, you need to slow down. Your pregnancy is entering a critical phase. Lauren swallowed hard. I'm just tired. I've been working a lot. It's more than that, the doctor continued. You're showing early signs of preeclampsia. You need rest, stable meals, reduced stress, and regular monitoring. And you cannot, under any circumstance, risk emotional shock. Emotional shock. The phrase landed like a stone in her stomach. Her whole life was emotional shock. Is the baby okay? She whispered. For now, yes, the doctor reassured. But your body can't handle much more. If anything intensifies, stress, lack of sleep, anxiety, it could endanger both of you. Lauren's throat tightened. Images flashed through her mind. The unpaid bills, the cut hours, Chase lurking in the dark in that Mercedes, Brielle's scheming smile, the debt tied to her name, and the way Ethan had looked at her earlier, as if he already knew she was holding up a collapsing world alone. Is there someone who can help you? Dr. Mitchell asked. Lauren hesitated. I'm managing. That's not what I asked, the doctor said softly. You need stability. You can't fight this alone. The words triggered something deep inside her, something she had tried to bury since the night Chase left. A tightening in her chest, a tremble in her hands. She pressed her palm against her belly, trying to steady herself. The doctor placed a warm hand on her shoulder. You have to protect yourself, and your child. Whatever, or whoever, is causing you stress, you need distance. Lauren nodded, but her eyes burned. Distance from Chase wasn't the problem. Danger was. When she stepped out of the clinic into the cold evening air, her phone buzzed, a restricted number. Her stomach dropped. She answered hesitantly. "Hello?" A familiar voice slid through the line. "Oh, good," Chase said calmly. "You're finally picking up." Her blood ran cold. "What do you want?" she whispered. "I want a meeting," he said. "Tonight. We have unfinished business." Her breath stilled, and Chase's final words shattered the fragile calm the doctor had tried to build. "You need to hear what I found out about Ethan." Lauren didn't go to meet Chase that night. Her instincts screamed that whatever he wanted, it wasn't for her safety. Instead, she went straight home, to the small room she rented in a shared apartment, locked the door, and tried to quiet her shaking hands. She spent hours debating whether to call Ethan, but the idea felt intrusive. He wasn't part of her world. He shouldn't have to deal with her chaos. But fate didn't ask for permission. The next morning, Lauren dragged herself to the nonprofit office, exhausted from barely sleeping. She tried to focus on entering data, but her head ached, her vision blurred, and her chest tightened with each breath. She thought it was stress, until her knees buckled. Janelle caught her arm. "Lauren, you're burning up. Sit down." "I'm fine," Lauren whispered, but her voice was thin. Janelle didn't believe her. She grabbed Lauren's phone and called the last medical number listed, unaware that the most recently dialed contact belonged to someone else. Ethan called her. When he picked up, his tone sharpened instantly. "Who is this?" "This is her coworker." Lauren almost fainted. "She needs help." "I'm on my way," Ethan said, already moving. He arrived before the ambulance did, steps brisk, expression stormed with worry. When he saw Lauren pale and trembling in the chair, something in him cracked. "Why didn't you call me?" he demanded, crouching beside her. "You're not responsible for me," she murmured weakly. His jaw tightened. "That's not the point." The paramedics checked her blood pressure, dangerously high. "She needs immediate monitoring," one of them said. "Is there someone who can accompany her?" "I am," Ethan said without hesitation. Lauren tried to protest, but her voice vanished as another wave of dizziness hit. Ethan steadied her, his hands gentle but firm, guiding her toward the stretcher. "Ethan," she whispered, "I didn't want to trouble you." "You could have died," he said, voice low and raw. "Don't you ever think you're a burden?" She nearly cried at that. At the hospital, after she was settled into a room, Ethan stepped out to speak with the doctor. When he returned, his face had changed, darkened. "Lauren," he said softly, closing the door behind him, "your condition is serious. Stress is putting both you and your baby in danger." "I know," she whispered. "No," he said, "you don't, because someone is intentionally putting you in harm's way." Her heart skipped. "What do you mean?" Ethan exhaled, eyes burning with anger he could no longer hide. "Last night," he said, "Chase called me." Her entire body went cold. And Ethan added, "He told me something that changes everything, and you're not safe around him anymore." Lauren's hospital room felt too bright, too clean, like a place built to expose truths she wasn't ready to face. Ethan stood near the window, arms crossed, his expression carved from a mixture of anger and restraint. She'd never seen him look like that, not even during the interviews or board meetings replayed on business networks. This was personal. "What did Chase tell you?" Lauren finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan turned slowly. "He told me someone's been feeding him information about my company, sensitive information, documents that only a few people should have access to." Lauren frowned. "What does that have to do with me?" "He implied you were the one sharing them." Lauren felt the world tilt. "That's insane. I barely know you." "I know," Ethan said firmly. "That's why the accusation didn't make sense. It was too desperate." Her pulse quickened. "So, why would he say that?" Ethan hesitated. "Because someone else wants him to believe it. Someone who benefits from turning him against you." The answer formed in her mind before he spoke it. "Brielle?" Lauren whispered. Ethan nodded once. She forged emails, fabricated attachments, enough to make Chase think you were working with me behind his back, enough to push him into panic mode. Lauren pressed a hand to her forehead. But why? What does she gain? Control, Ethan replied. Over him, over the narrative, over whatever scheme she's running. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. My team did a background sweep on her months ago. Brielle Maddox has a history of manipulating executives. She leaks information, then sells access to the highest bidder. She's done it before, in LA, Chicago, Seattle. Every time she disappears before anyone connects the dots. Lauren felt sick. So she targeted Chase? And me? She targeted anyone standing between her and power, Ethan said. Lauren's breath shook. And Chase believed her? Chase is drowning, Ethan said. He'll grab any lie that keeps his pride intact. Lauren closed her eyes, overwhelmed. The doctor said she needed less stress, yet every corner of her past was tightening around her like a vice. Ethan saw her trembling and softened. Lauren, listen to me. You're not the villain here. But Brielle is setting a trap. And Chase is walking straight into it. And if he drags you down with him, the consequences could be catastrophic. Her eyes widened. Catastrophic how? Ethan exhaled sharply. Because Brielle just leaked something huge, something that mentions you by name. And in a few hours. He paused, watching fear wash over her. It's going to hit the press. Lauren's heart stopped, because she finally understood Brielle wasn't trying to ruin Chase first. She was coming for her. The article landed online at sunrise. Lauren woke to her phone vibrating endlessly on the nightstand. At first, she thought it was another spam call or a reminder from the hospital. But when she saw the flood of notifications, unknown numbers, missed calls, messages from coworkers she barely knew, her stomach twisted painfully. Then she saw the headline. Anonymous source exposes whistleblower in Calder Industries leak, named Lauren Avery. Her chest tightened, her vision blurred. The air in the room thinned to nothing. She wasn't just mentioned. She was the face of the scandal. Her hands trembled as she read through comments. Speculation, insults, strangers calling her a liar, a traitor, a manipulator. Her nonprofit issued a statement claiming they had no involvement, subtly distancing themselves from her. People she thought were friends texted, asking if she was okay, but also asking if the accusations were true. The doctor's warning echoed in her mind. Stress will endanger the baby. Then came the knock. A hard, frantic pounding on the front door of the apartment. Lauren froze. The hallway light seeped under the doorframe, and a familiar voice pushed through the wood. Lauren! Open the door! Now! Chase. Her pulse thundered. She wrapped her arms protectively around her stomach. Janelle, half asleep, peeked out of her room. Lauren! Is that your ex? Stay inside, Lauren whispered, stepping away from the door. Chase pounded again. We need to talk. She swallowed hard. Go away, Chase. I'm not opening the door. I read the article, he snapped. Do you have any idea what you've done? You dragged my name into this. I did nothing, Lauren said, voice shaking. You and Brielle did. Chase's tone shifted. Less anger, more desperation. Lauren, listen to me. I need your help. I need you to come forward and say you acted alone. She felt sick. Absolutely not. You owe me, Chase hissed. I owe you nothing, she said, tears stinging her eyes. There was silence on the other side of the door. Then Chase spoke again, lower, dangerous. If you don't protect me, you're going down with me. Those accounts, those loans, your signature is on every one of them. Her breath collapsed into her chest. You forged my name. I used what I had, Chase said coldly, and I can fix this if you cooperate. But if you don't... He leaned close to the door. You'll lose everything, including the baby. Lauren covered her mouth, horrified. And that was the moment another voice echoed down the hallway, a deep, steady voice Chase did not expect. Step away from her door, Donovan. Chase froze at the sound of the voice. He turned slowly, eyes narrowing, when he saw Ethan Calder, standing at the end of the hallway, sleeves rolled, expression carved from cold steel. Ethan didn't look like the composed CEO featured in magazines. He looked like a man who had run through fire to get here. "Calder?" Chase scoffed, though his voice cracked. "What the hell are you doing here?" Ethan walked toward him with calm, measured steps, dangerous in their restraint. "The question is what you're doing here. Harassing a woman who already told you no." Chase straightened, attempting control. "This is between me and my ex-wife. Stay out of it." "No," Ethan said quietly. "Not anymore." The simplicity of those 3 words made Chase's jaw clench. He stepped closer, trying to hold his ground. "She ruined my career. She put me in the middle of a federal investigation. You think I'm going to let her walk away from that?" Lauren's voice trembled from behind the door. "I didn't ruin anything. You did." Chase's face twisted. "Lauren, open this door before things get worse." Ethan stepped in front of him. "She's not opening anything." Chase glared up at Ethan, fury darkening his eyes. "What is she to you, Calder? Some charity case? A sympathy project? You think saving her is going to make you feel better about whatever tragic backstory you're hiding?" Ethan didn't flinch. "What she is to me doesn't concern you. What you are to her is the problem." For a split second, something in Chase's face cracked. Fear? Envy? Rage? Lauren couldn't tell. Then he sneered. "You think you're the hero here? Fine, be her savior. But when the feds come for her because of those accounts, don't say I didn't warn you." Ethan's eyes sharpened. "We both know she didn't open those accounts." "Prove it," Chase hissed. "My signature looks just like hers." A beat of silence. Ethan exhaled. Slow and deliberate. "Already have," he said. Chase blinked. "What?" Ethan pulled a folded document from his coat pocket and held it up. A handwriting analysis, and a timestamp review of the IP addresses used to authorize the transactions. None of them trace back to Lauren. Chase's face drained of color. Ethan stepped closer, voice low and lethal. "But do you know who they do trace back to?" Chase swallowed. Ethan leaned in. "You!" Chase staggered back, panic flashing through him. And Ethan wasn't done, because the next words he spoke would send Chase's entire world crashing down. Chase's breath came out in short, panicked bursts. His bravado shattered as Ethan unfolded the second page, thicker, embossed with an official seal. Chase recognized it instantly, a preliminary notice of investigation. "You shouldn't have this," Chase muttered, voice shaking. "I shouldn't need to," Ethan replied, "but you forced my hand." Lauren slowly opened the apartment door, heart pounding as she stepped into the hallway. Ethan instinctively shifted, placing himself slightly in front of her, not hiding her, but shielding her from the weight of Chase's glare. Chase pointed at the document in Ethan's hand. "You think some report is going to scare me?" "It's not the report," Ethan said. "It's what comes next." Chase swallowed hard. "You don't have anything real?" Ethan's tone turned colder. "I have timestamps, forged signatures, bank transfers routed through offshore intermediaries linked directly to your IP. And before you say anything, my team already secured access to your old office server." Chase blinked rapidly. "You hacked me?" "I protected someone you tried to destroy," Ethan said. "And I followed the law. Can you say the same?" Sweat gathered on Chase's brow. He tried to gather himself, but his voice cracked. You're doing all this for her? Why? You barely know her." Ethan didn't hesitate. "Because I don't need years to recognize integrity when I see it, but I can spot a fraud in seconds." Lauren felt her throat tighten. No one had defended her like this. Not ever. Chase let out a breath that sounded half laugh, half choke. "So what now? You going to run to the feds? Make some grand speech? Take her to dinner so everyone can see the poor little pregnant charity girl on your arm?" Ethan stared at him with an icy intensity that made the hallway feel smaller. "You want to know the truth about that dinner?" he asked, voice low. Chase frowned. "What?" Ethan stepped closer, lowering his tone. I wasn't invited by the host. I was invited by an investor who wanted to expose the leak inside your circle. And the moment I saw you stroll in with Brielle Maddox, I knew exactly where to look. Lauren's breath caught. Chase's eyes widened in realization. You set me up. No, Ethan said, unblinking. You set yourself up. I just made sure the right people were watching. Chase staggered back against the wall, and Ethan added, and now, Donovan, they're ready to take the next step. Brielle Maddox always knew when a ship was sinking, and Chase Donovan's ship wasn't just sinking, it was plunging straight into the ocean, dragging fire and wreckage behind it. She watched the scandal unfold online that morning while sipping a lavender latte inside a luxury salon on Fifth Avenue. The moment she saw Chase's name start trending in the wrong direction, she knew it was time to pivot. She didn't panic. Panic was for amateurs. She simply crossed her legs, lifted her phone, and dialed the person she'd been grooming for weeks, the investor who also happened to be Chase's biggest rival. Morning, Mr. Litchfield, she purred. I think I have something you'll want to see. But before she could continue, the salon door swung open. Chase stormed inside, tie crooked, eyes wild, sweat glistening at his temples. Brielle didn't flinch. She just raised an eyebrow. You knew, he said, voice cracking. You knew Calder was watching. You put me in that room. Brielle ended the call without hesitation, sliding her phone into her purse. Careful, Chase. People are staring. Stop playing, he hissed. You set me up. Brielle leaned back in her chair as if enjoying a private show. I didn't set you up. You walked right into the fire with a can of gasoline. I just let the flames do their job. Chase shook with rage. You're going to fix this. No, she said simply. I'm protecting myself. I don't go down with men who can't keep their hands clean. Chase's voice rose. You don't get it. If I go down, you're coming with me. She laughed softly. Oh, sweetheart, I'm already gone. She stood, smoothing her coat with deliberate elegance. I've been collaborating with Litchfield for months. He paid me to get close to you, to feed him whatever you were too stupid to hide. Chase staggered back as if struck. Brielle? You were a stepping stone, she said, just like the others. Then her expression sharpened. And by the way, if the feds show up looking for the person who forged those emails, they'll find your name first. I made sure of that. Chase's face drained. What did you do? She leaned close, whispering against his ear. Everything. When she pulled away, she flashed him a smile, sweet, poisonous, final, then walked out of the salon, heels tapping like the countdown of a bomb. Chase tried to follow, but his phone buzzed. A new email popped up, a federal subpoena, and when he opened it, he realized Brielle hadn't just abandoned him. She had handed him over. Snow swept across Manhattan in small, frantic swirls the night Lauren went into early labor. She'd been trying to rest, doctor's orders, but the stress of the article, Chase's threats, and Brielle's scheme pressed on her chest like an invisible weight. Around midnight, a sharp pain sliced through her abdomen, stealing her breath. She tried to shift, thinking it was another stress spasm. It wasn't. Another contraction hit, harder, sharper. No, not now, she whispered, grabbing her phone with trembling hands. Before she could dial anyone, her water broke. Panic surged through her. Janelle rushed in from the hallway, wide-eyed. Lauren, sit down! I'm calling 911. But Lauren shook her head, gripping the wall. No ambulance. They'll take too long. Please, call Ethan. Janelle didn't hesitate. Within minutes, Ethan Calder burst through the apartment door, hair windswept, coat half-zipped, terror raw in his usually composed eyes. Lauren, he breathed, rushing to her side. It's happening too early, she whispered, face twisted in pain. I don't know what to do. I do, he said softly, gathering her into his arms. We're going to the hospital. I've got you. The Mercedes sped through snowy streets, city lights blurring past. Lauren struggled to breathe, nails digging into the seat. Ethan held her hand, murmuring steady words meant to anchor her to the present, to keep her from spiraling into fear. "You're strong," he whispered. "You and the baby. Just hold on a little longer." But as they neared Mount Sinai Hospital, Ethan's expression darkened. Flashing red and blue lights lit up the entrance. Police cars, agents, uniforms. Lauren's heart pounded. "Ethan, what's happening?" He swallowed hard. "Someone tipped off the authorities. They're here for Chase." Before she could respond, another contraction ripped through her, forcing a cry from her throat. Ethan pulled up to the emergency entrance, shouting for help. Nurses rushed out with a gurney. As Lauren was wheeled inside, she saw a commotion near the corner of the lobby, several officers restraining a frantic man. Chase Donovan. His voice ripped through the air. "Lauren, don't let them take me. You owe me. You hear me? You owe me." Lauren recoiled, tears blurring her vision. Ethan stepped between her and Chase instantly, blocking her view. "Get him out of here," Ethan ordered. Officers dragged Chase back as he kicked and screamed. Lauren clutched Ethan's sleeve, fear trembling through her. "Ethan," she whispered hoarsely, "if they're arresting him, what happens to me?" Ethan leaned closer, eyes fierce with a promise she didn't yet understand. "Nothing," he said, "because I'm not letting him take one more thing from you. Not tonight, not ever." The hospital lights felt too bright, too sharp. As Lauren was rushed into the maternity ward, the sound of wheels rolling across polished floors echoed in her ears. Nurses spoke quickly, their voices blending into static as another contraction tore through her body. She squeezed her eyes shut, breath ragged. "Stay with me, Lauren," Ethan said, hurrying beside the gurney. His voice was the one steady thing in the chaos. "You're doing great. Just breathe." She reached for him blindly, gripping his hand with all the strength she had left. "It's too early," she managed to whisper. "The baby is too early." "We're going to help you," a nurse said, pushing the gurney through swinging doors. "We're monitoring everything." They transferred Lauren to a bed, connecting monitors, checking vitals. Ethan stayed near her shoulder, refusing to step back no matter how many staff members asked him to give them space. Her heartbeat spiked, alarmingly fast. The monitor beeped in warning. Dr. Mitchell rushed in. "Lauren, listen to me. The stress is affecting your blood pressure. You need to stay calm for both of you." Calm felt impossible. Another contraction ripped through her, leaving her gasping. Tears blurred her vision. "I'm scared," she told Ethan, voice cracking. I can't do this." "You can," he said firmly, grabbing her hand again. "And I'm right here. You're not alone, Lauren, not anymore." Those words, so simple, so human, broke her completely. She choked on a sob, turning her face toward him. He brushed her hair back with trembling fingers, trying to hide how terrified he was. "Ethan, what if something happens? What if the baby—" "Nothing is going to happen," he said, though his voice shook. "Not while I'm standing here." Her breathing grew uneven, panic taking over. The machines beeped faster. Nurses exchanged worried glances. "Dr. Mitchell," a nurse said urgently, "we may need to prep for an emergency delivery." Lauren felt the room spinning. She clutched Ethan's arm. Promise me the baby will be okay." Ethan leaned close, his forehead brushing hers for the briefest second. "I promise I will fight for both of you with everything I have." The doctor checked the monitor again. "We need to move quickly. Her blood pressure is too high." Ethan kissed Lauren's hand. "I'll be right outside. I'm not leaving." As they prepared to wheel her into the delivery room, Lauren whispered his name, soft, fragile, pleading. "Ethan!" He held her gaze through the chaos, and the doors closed between them just as a flatline beep echoed from one of the monitors. The hallway outside the delivery room felt endless. Ethan paced back and forth, chest tight, every muscle wound like a spring. Nurses rushed past him, the doors swung open and shut, and every sound made his stomach drop. He had faced hostile boards, collapsing markets, billion-dollar negotiations, nothing compared to the terror of waiting for news about Lauren and her baby. Then, finally, the door opened. Dr. Mitchell stepped out, mask lowered, eyes soft with relief. "She's stable. We managed to bring her pressure down in time." Ethan's knees nearly gave out. "And the baby?" A slow smile touched the doctor's face. A little early, but strong, breathing on her own. He exhaled shakily, running a hand over his face. "Can I see her?" "Just a moment," Dr. Mitchell said. "Let the nurses finish settling her." When Ethan was finally allowed into the recovery room, the world seemed to quiet. Lauren lay propped against pillows, pale and exhausted, but alive. Alive in a way that made something deep inside him unclench for the first time in years. She held a tiny swaddled bundle in her arms, her fingers brushing tenderly over the infant's cheek. She looked up when she saw him. "Ethan," she whispered, voice raw and soft. He approached slowly, as if afraid he might shatter the fragile peace around her. "You scared me," he murmured, "more than you'll ever know." She tried to smile. "I scared myself." He sat beside her, hesitating before touching her hand. She didn't pull away. Instead, she turned her palm into his, weaving their fingers together. "They said she's okay," Lauren whispered. "She is," he said. "And so are you." Tears filled her eyes, falling silently onto the baby's blanket. I thought I was going to lose everything." "You didn't," Ethan said gently. "You fought your way back." Lauren swallowed hard. "I couldn't have done any of this without you." "Yes, you could have," he answered softly. "But I'm grateful you let me stand beside you." She stared at him, seeing not the CEO, not the public figure, just the man who stayed, the man who ran toward her, not away. Ethan reached out, brushing a damp strand of hair from her cheek. "Lauren, there's something I need to tell you, something I should have told you before tonight." Her heart skipped. "About us," he said quietly, "and about what I feel." She held her breath, waiting. And before he could finish, the door creaked open, revealing someone neither of them expected to see. The door opened slowly, and Lauren instinctively tightened her hold on her baby. For one suspended second, she feared the worst, that Chase had somehow forced his way into the recovery ward. But instead, Assistant District Attorney Mariah Keaton stepped inside, a folder in hand and a calm, professional expression. "Sorry to interrupt," Mariah said softly, "but I thought you'd want to know immediately." She nodded toward Lauren. "It's good to see you awake." Ethan rose slightly from his chair. "Is it done?" Mariah's expression shifted into something firm, satisfaction mixed with justice. "It's done. Chase Donovan is officially in federal custody. Brielle Maddox has agreed to cooperate. And every document she turned over confirms Lauren was a victim, not a participant." She set the folder on the bedside table. "You're cleared of everything." Lauren exhaled, a trembling sound that cracked at the edges. Tears spilled silently as she looked down at her daughter, her future finally protected. "And the debts?" she whispered. "Forged," Mariah said. "All voided. You won't owe a cent." The relief hit so hard, Lauren had to close her eyes. Ethan sat beside her again, his hand sliding back into hers, grounding her. Mariah continued, "There's more. Chase confessed to signing your name on multiple accounts. Combined with Brielle's testimony and the digital trail Mr. Calder's team uncovered, the evidence is overwhelming. He'll be facing years, likely decades." Lauren swallowed. "So, it's really over." "It's over," Mariah confirmed gently. When she left the room, silence settled, warm, safe, almost sacred. Ethan looked at Lauren, that same softness in his eyes she had seen in the delivery room. "You were saying something," she whispered, before she walked in. Ethan let out a breath, rubbing his thumb across her knuckles. "I was saying that I care for you, more than I expected, more than I should have let myself, and I don't want to walk away from you, or from her." He nodded toward the baby. Lauren's chest tightened, not with fear, but with something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. "Ethan, are you sure? My life is complicated." He smiled, a real unguarded smile. "Then let me help make it uncomplicated." He reached into his coat pocket, not for a ring box, but for a simple silver bracelet. "This belonged to my mother. I want you to have it, if you'll let me be part of your life." Her eyes filled again, but this time with light instead of pain. "Yes," she breathed. "I want that." He leaned forward, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead, then to the tiny hand of the newborn curled against her. Lauren looked out the window, Manhattan glowing, peaceful, almost welcoming, and finally felt she had stepped into the life she deserved. And for the first time, her story didn't end in survival, but in beginning. So that's it, my dear friends. Our story has finally come to an end. And if you're still here with me, right now, listening until this very last moment, then something in Lauren's journey must have touched your heart. Maybe a memory, maybe a fear, maybe a hope you haven't spoken out loud. You know, life can break us in places we never expected. But as Marcus Aurelius once said, what stands in the way becomes the way. Sometimes the wounds we carry become the doorway to the life we were meant to live. Lauren didn't win because she was lucky. She won because she refused to let bitterness define her. She stood back up, quietly, painfully, but steadily. And that's a reminder for all of us. Healing isn't loud. It's simply choosing yourself again and again, even when the world tries to tell you you're not enough. If this story made you feel seen, or gave you strength, or simply kept you company tonight, then don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to the channel. Your presence here means more than you know. Let's keep walking through these stories together.